Hey guys, Razorblade Mango here. So, with Zack Snyder's Justice League movie coming out pretty soon, I wanted to make this video talking about my history with Zack Snyder. Not like I've never personally met the man before. I don't want to insinuate that, although I'd like to. But I've had out of all the filmmakers out there that have been around since I became, seriously interested in movies when I was younger, I've had one of the ones I've had the weirdest history with is Zack Snyder. So, I guess I'll preface this by saying that when you're younger and you're into movies, you tend to tie more your identity into specific filmmakers. And I feel like I don't want to say, like, I hate sounding like I sound like an old man when it's like my generation, but when I was in middle school, high school, stuff like that, I feel like a lot of people during that era tied their identity to the movies of like Christopher Nolan or like the Marvel stuff during that time period. And I was one of those people where I was like a big Christopher Nolan fan. I felt personally insulted whenever someone dissed Christopher Nolan back then or something like that. Looking back on it, it's very strange. But if there was an antithesis to that back when I was in high school or early college, it was Zack Snyder. Because throughout my high school and early college years, Zack Snyder was my nemesis. Like, he was my Joker. He was my Lex Luthor when it came to my movie watching history. And looking back on it, it's so weird how much I tied my identity into hating Zack Snyder when I was younger. It is very strange. Like, I can laugh about it now, but when I was like 16, 17, around that point, I hated Zack Snyder. Hated him with a passion. So it began when 300 came out. And when it came out, I think I was at the end of middle school. And for any like 13-year-old, 14-year-old boy growing up in the mid 2000s, their desire is a pretty common desire among that age group to go see 300. Why? Because it's 300. I mean, who cares? It's got people, slaughtering, like, people getting their heads cut off, tons of blood and gore. There's boobies, stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's you're a 13-year-old. You want to go see 300. Pretty self-explanatory. So it's like my generation's Gladiator or The Matrix or something for that time period. And I didn't really care all that much about what Zack Snyder did in that movie visually or whatever. I was just like, I want to see some gore. I want to see some boobies. That's all I care about when I was 14. I think I was 13 when that came out. So yeah, 13-year-old going through puberty. You want to see some violence. You want to see some boobs. That's pretty self-explanatory. So that was my first introduction to Zack Snyder. And at that time, I was just kind of indifferent towards him as a filmmaker. I was just like, whatever. He made 300, whatever. And then it was around the time that Watchmen came out. Because I've always really liked Watchmen, the graphic novel. And I remember when that first got announced. I remember the trailer for that, specifically when I saw The Dark Knight. And I remember in the first trailer, they have, like, from visionary director Zack Snyder. And I was like, for real? The fucking 300 guys doing Watchmen? One of the most complex comic books ever made? Okay, sure. And when I finally saw it, I was not all that impressed. I was just like, this is weird, and there's some stupid shit in it. And why is that sex scene scored to Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah? That's so bizarre. I don't like this. So I didn't care for Watchmen when I first saw it. But, what's going to become a running theme throughout this video is now I'm an adult. I've seen it, and I appreciate it a lot more now. So from that point on, I feel like with the film, movie circles I was in, like the internet stuff I was into when I was a kid, like the group communities, there was this consensus that Zack Snyder was a hack and he was a terrible filmmaker. And I fed into that. I was like, yeah, like, because, when you're younger and you're in these groups, you want to be well liked. You want to see, you want to be viewed upon as like, going with the group and trendy and all that. So back then, I was all on board the Zack Snyder hate train. I was just like, yeah, 300 is stupid. And I hadn't even seen 300 since I was in middle school. But 300 stupid. Watchmen's stupid. That animated owl movie he did is stupid. So fuck Zack Snyder. He's a hack. I hate him. And after that, it kind of just snowballed into me, disliking the man as the years went by. And I remember when that movie Sucker Punch came out that he did, which, to be fair, that's the one of the two I have not rewatched in quite some time. That and the Owl movie are the two I have not seen since I initially saw them when they first came out. But Sucker Punch, I remember going into that movie and just like getting my whiffing myself up into a frenzy of hatred for that movie just because it was Zack Snyder. I remember going into it and I was like, ugh. I was like, oh, it's Zack Snyder. Oh, that motherfucker. Fuck this pile of shit movie. It's so gross. It's so terrible. I hate this movie. I want to leave. And I distinctly remember coming back to school after seeing it for over the weekend. And I was literally in a group with like a bunch of other friends, and I was just going on this rant, this tirade about how terrible Sucker Punch was. It was just so awful, and the group was like enjoying it, and we were like feeding off of each other's negativity about Sucker Punch. So from that point on, I got like a whole new level of hatred for Zack Snyder at that point. And then a few years later is when Man of Steel was getting promoted. And I was like, I don't want this motherfucker anywhere near Superman. Why is WB giving this guy the keys to the DC kingdom? I don't want this guy doing Superman. Get rid of him. I don't want him. Don't need him. And I went to go see Man of Steel anyway. And of course, I thought it sucked. I didn't like it. I actually rewatched it yesterday at the time of recording this. And I still don't really care for it, but I respect it more now than I did. I still don't really like it, but it's not bad. It's not, I don't think it sucks now. It has problems, but I don't think it sucks now, per se. So, seeing Man of Steel again, it just added like another layer of hatred back in the day of Zack Snyder for me. So I just was like, ugh, and that's when it just really kicked into overdrive for those years between Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. And I remember I can exactly pinpoint my thought process when I heard that he was going to be taking on Batman. My favorite superhero of all time. When I heard that Zack Snyder was going to be, tackling Batman, I was not happy. I was not happy at all. I was furious. I vividly remember going on Facebook when I was much more active on Facebook at the time. And I remember linking the story, and I said, get this motherfucker away from Batman. He is poison. He kills on impact. I can remember exactly what I said because I was furious that he was going after Batman. Like, I did not want Zack Snyder going for Batman. And then more things started to come out about Batman v Superman. One of the things I was actually okay with was Ben Affleck as Batman, because I remember when people were like, no, we don't want Ben Affleck. Why is Ben Affleck going to be Batman? What the hell are they thinking? I actually quite like Ben Affleck as an actor. I think in the right role, under the right direction, he can be very good and even great. He was on quite a bit of a winning streak throughout like the mid 2010s. He was in The Town, which I thought he was really good in. I liked him in Argo. I thought he was very good in Fincher's Gone Girl. He gives a fantastic performance in the very underrated, underappreciated The Accountant. And even recently, it's not in the 2010s, but in the movie The Way Back that came out last year, I thought he was fucking fantastic in that. Like, he carried that movie. It was great. So Ben Affleck can be a good actor, and even I knew that at the time when it was announced that Ben Affleck was going to be Batman. But everything else that I heard about it, like Zack Snyder casting Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, which I was like, what the fuck? The fact that it was going to be continuing the very somber, like funeral-like tone of Man of Steel, and I was like, no, I don't want this. And then, of course, when the reviews came in and I'd heard all these things about it, like, Batman killing people and how long and bloated it was, the fact that they were doing the death of Superman so early with Doomsday, and I just was like, this is going to be a fucking disaster. I'm so angry. I hadn't even seen it yet, but I was pissed when I went to go see it for the first time. I was just like, fuck this movie. I'm going to hate this movie. And I remember at the time, too, one of my friends who's a big Zack Snyder fan, and he'd already seen it, and he said it was a masterpiece. And to this day, it's among his top, 25 movies of all time. He was, my buddy was running a podcast where guests would come on and talk about movies that, they people in the group disagreed with each other over, and movies, they also discussed movies that were, they thought were underappreciated in the general consensus, film consensus. Like, they talked about movies that they liked, like Freddy Got Fingered and Passion of the Christ, stuff like that, just to name a few. Like Ryan Gosling's directorial debut, Lost River. And he and I had been talking for just a little bit about me being on the podcast sometime to discuss a movie with him. And I told him that, considering there's a very high likelihood I'm going to fucking hate Batman vs. Superman, might as well be a good time to come on the podcast and talk about it. So we kind of sort of planned for that to be my episode for the podcast. But when I went to go see it, I can pretty vividly remember when I went to go see it for the first time. Because when the movie started, I remember saying out loud to myself, let's get this over with. Right when the WB logo, I think, when that first popped up, I was like, I just sunk into my seat. I had my arms folded, and I had just the sour, resting bitch face look on my face. And I just went, let's get this shit over with. So, when it started, I was like, ugh, we're seeing the death of Bruce Wayne's parents again for the billionth time. Ugh, whatever, fine. But then, when the opening scene happened, with Bruce Wayne running to the wreckage of the Wayne Financial Building, and we see all the death and destruction that Superman's fight against Zod and his team of Kryptonians, destroyed the city of Metropolis. I remember thinking, okay, this is a pretty good intro. And the longer it went on in that opening scene, the more impressed I was. And I thought, okay, this isn't too bad. This is okay. This is all right. And then it just kept going and going, and I kept liking that scene more and more. And I thought, wow, that was a pretty good opening. The rest of the movie's probably gonna suck, but, this opening was pretty good. But the more the movie went on, I kept thinking to myself, I'm liking this. And I liked things that I didn't expect to like in Batman v Superman the longer it went on. I actually really liked Jesse Eisenberg's interpretation of Lex Luthor. I was on board with this concept of Batman just not giving a fuck and just murdering criminals in cold blood in that movie. And I actually really liked the darker, more somber tone of it. And I didn't love Batman v Superman when I saw it for the first time. I liked it. It's more the first half that I liked more than the second half at the time. And when I walked out of it, I was just I was in a state of shock, honestly. I thought, I liked that movie. Why did I like that movie? And I clearly remember messaging my friend who ran the podcast, and I told him, we gotta cancel our episode. I liked Batman v Superman. But Batman v Superman is kind of the thing that started the snowball effect of me evaluating or reevaluating my thoughts on Zack Snyder himself. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I really appreciated a lot of things in Batman v Superman at the time compared to a lot of other superhero movies. I appreciated that it went out of its way to treat Batman and Superman as these like tragic, like mythological beings. And I thought that was a very interesting take on the Superman and Batman mythos. And I really liked the tone that it was going for. I thought that the cinematography was absolutely like stunning, like stunningly beautiful. I adored the nightmare sequence where we see the injustice-like world that Darkseid creates in the ruins, where Batman he's in like the desert like costume and he's like fighting the parademons and the soldiers. I thought that I would watch a 3-hour movie all about that. Like I would love to see that someday. Like if when I die and go to heaven, hopefully I go to heaven, I'd like to go up there and be like, can I please watch a 3-hour movie about the nightmare world and have Zack Snyder make it? And it's like I would be in bliss. I would love to see something like that and just have it be as weird and crazy and as violent as it can get. And I would love that. And the more time has gone on, the more I've grown to appreciate Batman v Superman. And to this day, it is one of my all-time favorite movies. Like, I think it is a masterpiece, which is so strange. Like, when you go on the internet and you look at, people like, oh, it's terrible. It's got like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes or something. People hate it. I've even people that I like listening to for movies, and there aren't very many, but even most of them don't have a very high opinion of Batman v Superman. I love Red Letter Media, but Red Letter Media, I think it was Jay and Red Letter Media. He said that Batman v Superman was the worst comic book movie released, or maybe the worst blockbuster released in the last 25 years. I think he said something like that, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, really? Like, it was not that bad. And a lot of my reevaluation of Zack Snyder has to do with the fact that I noticed that a lot of people almost intentionally exaggerate or distort what Batman v Superman actually is and the elements that are in it. As an example, the famous Martha scene. Like, a lot of people give that scene shit, and they think it's terrible, and they're like, why does Batman stop fighting when he realizes that he and Superman's mother share the first name? Who cares? That's stupid. Well, that whole scene, the reason he stops is because the arc of Batman in that movie is he is completely checked out as far as being the Batman. He's still Batman, but he has given up on humanity. He does not care about preserving human life at all. He is just done. He is just broken and beaten. So when he sees Superman, he's like an animal where he's like, I'm going to kill this guy. This guy is our enemy. I'm going to fuck this guy up. And there's even a point that I really like. There's a scene earlier before the fight where he's talking to Alfred about murdering Superman. And he says something like, this will be the one thing that matters that I do. And Alfred kind of looks at him and he goes, like, really? Like, 20 years of fighting criminals in Gotham? That doesn't amount to anything? And even, like, Batman, like, something I never expect Batman to say. Batman just goes, man, they're like weeds. You pull one up and 2 more will appear. It's whatever. But killing Superman, that will give my work meaning. So he's just done. Like, he's so driven to kill Superman just because. And of course that plays into the larger themes of meaning versus meaninglessness and the division between ideologies and politics. And I think Batman v Superman is a lot smarter and a lot deeper than people give it credit for. But that Martha scene where Lois runs in and it's like, it's his mom's name, stop. And in that moment, that's a big moment in Batman's character arc in that movie. That's where he reconnects with his humanity, because he realizes how low he has sunk. That it's not the fact that it's not the fact that they share names. It's the fact that he realizes that he's about to kill another person, like another being that is trying to do something good. And you see it on Batman's face. And Ben Affleck does such a great job through that mask, even. This look of shame and regret. And that's the point where Batman realizes, like, oh shit, I was about to do something horrible. I better set this right. And that's when he's like, Martha will not die tonight. And again, it completes the arc of in the beginning shown with the death of his parents, where his PTSD is the reason why he's became Batman, but he lost sight of that reasoning throughout the arc of Batman v Superman. But it's reestablished before the climax. That's good storytelling. That's good. That's an interesting character arc for Batman. But people dismiss that in favor of, oh, well, it's just because it's Martha's name. Whatever, it's stupid. It's like, no, jackass. That's like the whole fucking reason why it's like, that's the whole reason. What the fuck? And it's not just shit like that. It's things like critics like oh that nightmare sequence was so pointless. I don't understand why that was there. And then people talk about like, oh, the movie just doesn't make any sense. It's all scenes. There's no connective tissue there. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what fucking movie are you watching? Like, yeah, there is. There's a very clear building block of narrative in Batman v Superman, and it's building up to things. And it has peaks and valleys, like an actual movie. It's there, but people just, I feel like they just intentionally distort what Batman vs. Superman is because Zack Snyder's at the helm. They just see Zack Snyder's name, and they just go, oh, it's bad. Oh, it's terrible. But I shit you not, like, if they put any other person's name, like if Christopher Nolan's name was on that thing, people would lap this shit up. They would be calling it, like, a work of genius. They would love it. And also, like, another point that I'll bring across, a specific point is, people, I read somewhere before it came out that, like, oh, I shit you not, guys, and I remember this from, I don't remember what critic said this, but they said something along the lines of, oh, the reason, like, I shit you not, guys, there's a bit in this movie, there's a plot point that has to do with a jar of piss. I'm not shitting you, that's a thing. And I remember reading that, I was like, yeah, that sounds stupid. And then when I went to go see it, and I saw the full context of what the jar of piss meant in that movie, I was like, you're an idiot. like to that film critic, you're an idiot. Because that plot point is like such a minor detail about the jar of piss. Because so for those who haven't seen Batman vs. Superman, there's a scene where Lex Luthor is trying to get I think it's a transportation license from a senator in order to get a bit of kryptonite that was found on another continent over to Metropolis. But he needs the senator's backing. And the senator comes to tell him, like, I'm not giving you the transport license. I'm revoking it. Because I know what you're up to. You can't fool me. And Lex is kind of being smarmy. He's like, oh, can I call you Joan? Like, that's her first name. And she goes, you can call me whatever you want. You can call a bucket of piss Granny's peach tea, but I'm not going to drink it. The same thing, you're calling this weapon of war like a backup. I know what you're doing. You're going to make this kryptonite into war weapons. So I'm not going to give you access to it. But like, it's like critics honed in on that line, and they were like, oh, it's like Granny's peach tea. And then there's a moment later on where the senator is having the hearing with Superman, and she sees that her drink glass on the mantle with her, it's got labeling on it, and she turns it around, and she's kind of like caught off guard by it, and she turns it around, and it says Granny's peach tea on it. Now, we don't know if that jar is actually like a jar of piss or whatever, but it's an indication from Lex Luthor as like a giant fuck you to her. And that's when the bomb triggers in the Senate, which is a great scene, by the way, during the hearing, where it's like, it's quiet, and there's this dread in the room where we realize what's about to happen before the bomb goes off. And it's great. It's a great moment. but it's like critics just honed in on that aspect, and they're like, oh, it has to do with just a jar of piss. It's just all about that. It's like, no, that's not. That's like such a minor detail. Like, what are you talking about? So people just intentionally distort or exaggerate what Batman v Superman is about. And it's annoying every time I talk to people about it that don't like it. They always bring up like minor aspects like that without even thinking about what the movie is saying in like as a part of like what it's actually about, because what it's about is meaning versus meaninglessness. That's like the big thing. And I think Batman v Superman has aged better. Like the more of like a hostile political climate we've come to in America, I think the better that movie ages, because it's all about how big tech another aspect to it is how big tech exploits the gaping wedge between political parties in America, which is represented by Superman and Batman. And you got Lex Luthor in the middle, just like manipulating the both of them. And that it resonates so well with what's going on in America today. So I think there's a lot. Like, if you haven't seen Batman v Superman in a while, just watch it again. I implore you to watch it again, because it's really a lot deeper than people give it credit for. It's great. Like, I think it's so smart and so well written, and it's sad, it's somber, it's thoughtful, it's contemplative, but it's not this like dour, depressing thing that a lot of people think it is. It has like really fantastic action in it. It's got some bits of humor in it that are way funnier than anything in the fucking Joss Whedon Justice League movie. But with that, and I've gone on a lot about Batman v Superman, because I could go on for hours about Batman v Superman, because I love Batman v Superman, but that was the movie that kickstarted my thoughts on reevaluating Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. And from that point on, over the last 5 years till now, I have grown to respect Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. I may not like every movie that he makes, but I think he is a unique filmmaker with a very established, driven aesthetic. And I think that's missing from a lot of filmmakers these days, where they just don't have their own style. Like, a lot of it is just boring style. Not Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's color grading and cinematography and lighting, that is all him. Like, that is him. And I've grown to really appreciate it and respect it. And that is why, until very recently, I refused to watch the Joss Whedon Justice League movie. The only reason I watched it now is to prep for the Snyder one coming out soon. So I'm excited to see what Zack Snyder's going to do with it. I don't mind at all that it's 4 hours. If this is really the last time he's going to be doing a DC movie, fine. Make it 4 hours. I don't care. Whatever. Go for it, dude. But I'm not I don't want to misinterpret what I am. Like, I'm not a giant Zack Snyder fan. Aside from like the occasional thing here and there, I was never really like pounding my fist into my desk demanding the Snyder cut, because I didn't think it would actually happen. I didn't think WB would actually like give Zack Snyder his creative control back and be like, hey, finish your edit of Justice League. Go for it, dude. Here's 70, 80, $90 million. Go for it. And this movie would not happen if HBO Max wasn't a thing. There's no way. So I don't like where streaming services are going nowadays, but if it means things like Zack Snyder's Justice League get made, you know what? So be it. I'll take it. I'll take the bad with when there's good things like that in the mix. So, yeah. I like Zack Snyder now, which is interesting. And I'm excited to see where Justice League goes in this one. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same beats that I saw in the Whedon movie, but I'm pretty sure it's going to look and feel like a whole different animal, which I'm very excited to see. Yeah, so that's my history with Zack Snyder. I respect him more now. I like movies that I was kind of like meh about now. Like Watchmen I really like now. I think it's a very unique movie. I'm looking forward to Justice League. I'm looking forward to the Army of the Dead that he's doing on Netflix. I hope that's good. So, yeah. That was the story about how I became an admirer of Zack Snyder. I went from a hater to an admirer. That's my story. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. If you like to see, subscribe. Let me know if you're excited for the new Justice League movie coming out. And as always, I'm Razorblade Mango. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later.